The news that Christopher Columbus had discovered lands beyond the oceans to the west inspired the adventurer John Cabot to set sail in search of new territories on behalf of the King of England. In 1497, he reached the shores of Newfoundland, and a new era of European exploration and commerce began.
Well, the exploration of Canada by Europeans was fueled partly by a desire for wealth, for fish or for furs, but a lot of it was fueled by a missionary impulse. Once it was discovered by Columbus and others that there were whole peoples on this continent that didn't know about Jesus Christ, from the earliest figures like Samuel de Champlain, there is a strong missionary concern to bring the gospel to these people whom Christ loves.
By 1534, Jacques Cartier arrived to explore this new world. Adapting the Indian name for village, Kanata, Jacques Cartier was the first to refer to the country as Canada. On July 20th, 1534, he raised a cross over the Gaspé and claimed it for the French crown.
There was a rich civilization here, or should I say civilizations. There were somewhere in the order of 500 tribal groups in the North American continent at the time of contact. Not technologically advanced in the ilk of Europe, but certainly very much groups of people who were engaged in lifestyles and practices that were every bit as sophisticated for their context.
Terry LeBlanc is a Mi'kmaq Indian, originally from Nova Scotia. His ancestral tribe was one of the first to welcome the Jesuit priests who came from France. The Jesuits' first convert was a Mi'kmaq Grand Chief, Membertu. He was baptized on June the 24th, 1610, and within a month, 140 more Native people were baptized. In 1608, Samuel de Champlain, considered the father of New France, sailed up the St. Lawrence to establish a trading post at the site of Quebec. A French Protestant, Champlain was eager to bring the gospel of Jesus to the peoples of Canada. New France was seen as a God-given opportunity to create a truly Christian and Catholic society as a light to the world. In 1759, the centuries of struggle for the colony of New France culminate in their defeat by the British on the Plains of Abraham. In 1763, the Treaty of Paris ended the 7 Years' War and Britain took control of most of North America. If the French brought their Catholic faith to Canada, now the British would bring their Protestant beliefs. In 1815, after the end of the Napoleonic Wars in Europe, thousands immigrated to Canada from Scotland, England, and Ireland. With them came the Church of England, assuming that its privileged status in Great Britain would be duplicated in this new colony.
The vast majority of these people came out of a broadly Christian background. So they came with the values of Christianity, the ethical positions of Christianity, the worldview of Christianity.
In Nova Scotia, Henry Alline, a young populist evangelist, had a profound impact spiritually on the Atlantic region. He experienced a life-changing conversion at 27, and he became an itinerant preacher. His followers were known as the New Lights movement. This revival, referred to as the Great Awakening, emphasized the individual's responsibility for their own spiritual welfare, instilling in converts the ideas of equality, liberty, and freedom. Ultimately, the principles at the core of the movement contributed to the democratizing of Canada. After 1776, more than 60,000 United Empire Loyalists came to settle in Ontario.
So Methodism sweeps up into Ontario in the 18th and into the 19th century. And this Baptist and Methodist influx galvanizes a colonial population in the early 19th century doesn't really go to church. Either they don't care or there's no church around to go to. And between the 18-teens and the 1860s, at the time of Confederation, in one generation, Canadian churches from Nova Scotia through to Ontario enfold virtually all the colonial population. By the 1860s, almost everybody in Canada is going to church almost every weekend.
I think one of the ways that we can really see the religious roots, specifically the Christian roots of Canada, is to look at our universities, to look at our higher education. You look at so many of them, and they have as their roots Protestant and Catholic histories.
In Canada, there was never a formal separation of church and state, as occurred in the United States. But the dissolution of the clergy reserves in 1854 and the breakup of Anglican domination meant that all churches became financially dependent on their members, not on the state. Ironically, the revivalist emphasis on individual Christianity resulted in an increased secularization in Canada from that time forward, as churches withdrew from the responsibility to be an influence in the political arena.